Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of our phone-in series, our show in which we have a chat with plenty of Arsenal fans from all around the globe, basically, about their views on different topics. I'm just going to change over my mic quickly. Hopefully you can hear me a lot more clearer and better now as well. But yes, we're going to be discussing things with fans for the next hour around Raphinha. One of the reasons why I wanted to do this, because there was a lot of reaction to the Raphinha story in both the comment section of this morning's 8 a.m. show and on Twitter that I was just looking through. If you're wondering how you get on the show, the information is down below. That rhymes. That's a phrase. I'm going to use that in the future. If you want to get on the show, the information is down below. I'm loving that. Anyway, you need to DM us at the Gooner Talk TV or on Instagram, just the Gooner Talk. You need to be over 18 years of age, have a webcam, microphone that can be just like one of these earphone microphones, if you like. And of course, have a quiet place to record with some good internet connection as well. So it's obviously good and not just sputtering all over the place and horrible to listen to. We have got people lined up that obviously message throughout the day. But if there is people that are vehemently, passionately against what we're talking about, that's the type of discussion that we do want to kind of talk about and question and debate. So if that's you, then make sure that you get in touch. I'll be making sure I'm checking my DMs and stuff throughout the show over the course of the next hour. Of course, if you are listening in, do drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel as we fight our way towards 35,000 subs. Thank you so much everybody that supported the channel. But without further ado, let's bring in our first caller of the day to set the scene and set the discussion up. I'm very happy to be joined by Albert from Albert JTV. How you doing, mate? You good? You well?
Not bad, Tom. I just want to clarify. I am over the age of 18, so I'll
just checking. He sent me like his passport and everything just to confirm that. But to be fair, when you did tell me how old you were, I was like, nah, I ain't having that. At least I need these genes. I need some of these genes.
Tom, even I can't believe it, to be honest with you.
Lovely stuff, man. Well, it's good to chat to you as always, my friends. I suppose for phone-ins, people are going to go, look, Tom only gets his friends on for the phone-ins, which is just absolutely factually untrue, because I really don't like Albert. But no, in reality, of course, I thought it'd be a good kind of thing to set up the conversation, discuss this topic. Raphinha doesn't look like he's joining Arsenal. He might not even be joining Chelsea from the sounds of things. Barcelona aren't out of this race either right now. But the reason why I want to do this, and I'll read you this because it came up as one of the comments on the video from this morning. The comment was, Edu and the negotiators are, I assume they mean a disgrace. They just put disgrace, and then I went on to Twitter to kind of look at the reaction. This is a tweet I read. Arsenal always a poor team on transfers, slowly to agreeing deals for Lissandro and Raphinha will cost us significantly. Arteta and Edu will never learn from previous failures. Taking almost an eternity to negotiate players under 70 million is a disgrace. Just that word disgrace popping up a few times. But I didn't want to just go and put people have said this, so here's the evidence and what it is. What do you make of kind of this reaction to Arsenal missing out, it seems, on Raphinha?
Before I say anything about Raphinha, I want people to understand in the chat, me and Tom didn't agree to both wear grey to reflection.
This isn't grey. This is green. I want to put this out there. It's definitely. I'm going to raise the light up. It's 100% green. Like, this is like turquoise at least. It's like a weird greeny blue. Like,
if that's turquoise, I need to put on my glasses. But no, Tom, you see with the Raphinha thing, right? I think this is kind of the first discussion I've had in terms of probably Arsenal's transfer. Within the first what we like a week, just over a week now into the transfer window. So this is the first time I've kind of spoken about it, because I've taken a back seat, see people lose their mind, see people be happily overly positive or be ultra negative. So I thought, let me sit back and wait and see what happens. The Raphinha links were interesting for me because he's the one link out of all the blood links with Arsenal that I was never confident that would ever happen. And the way I looked at it, Tom, was that I thought it was might have been used as a pawn for him to get the Barcelona move, which I actually still do think will happen. So I was never confident that we would get him. I'll be honest with you though, Tom. If we had got him, or there might be a small chance that it might happen, but it's, pigs might fly and all the rest of it. He would excite me as a signing. Now, people will come up with the first thing the time and say, what does that mean for Saka? What does it mean for this player, that player? One thing we complained about for probably the entirety of last season was squad depth. Players need to be challenged in certain positions. So if he'd have come, for example, he would have excited me. I'd have been happy with him. If you're going to go purely by social media in terms of players that get linked with Arsenal, generally, they're overrated. They're not good enough. Defensively, they're poor. And I think to myself, I don't understand it, Tom, because one thing Arsenal fans should universally agree on, right, is the fact that we need players in that are going to not just improve the squad, but be challenging for the first 11 in terms of playing in the first team. So when players are heavily linked with Arsenal, and I mean reliable sources, ever you believe, oh, he's not good enough. So as an Arsenal fan, who do you want to come in that's going to better this team?
In Raphinha, does he improve on Saka? Is he better than Saka?
Oh, it's a good question, man. Don't think I've been asked that before.
If you had to start one of Saka or Raphinha in the first game of the season at right wing, we can all talk about where they could both play and we can move Saka to left. But if you had to pick one of them to play at right wing against Crystal Palace, who are you picking?
I pick Bukayo Saka. 100%.
Right. So this is another reason why I don't get the anger about missing out on Raphinha. I get the idea of, competition, as you've been said, we need competition for places. We need strong rotation. You look at the Manchester City model and all of this, but the anger and to label Edu and Arteta as a disgrace for missing out on Raphinha, a player who I look at as a bit of a luxury signing, because for me, Saka starts over the two of them. I can't. That's why I find it hard to get on board with that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like this. Listen, like I said, Tom, like we see the reaction of Arsenal fans on the social media platform. I say social media platform. Let's just be honest. Twitter. It's not Instagram. It's not Facebook.
Insta's pretty chill.
It's Twitter. The facts.
And YouTube, to be fair. The YouTube comments can be crazy.
Even more so, yeah, especially in the chat box. Wow. I've seen some interesting stuff in the last few months. But I don't get that. I think, Tom, the only thing I can think, right, and I'm not justifying the anger. Let me make this very, very clear with people in the chat as well, is that we've been linked with a player that has actually where they've actually submitted a bid. Now, people said about lowballing offer and whatever. Arsenal must have known what Leeds wanted, right? And if you've probably gone under that valuation, which I'm assuming which has happened, Tom, that's where the anger comes from. Whether that's justifiable, how you demonstrate that anger is a completely different subject. But like I said, for me, he's a player that would have excited me. Could you get both him and Saka into the team? 100%. We're gonna have a lot of football next season because we're obviously back in Europe. But this is all hypotheticals. But I don't get the anger word Tom did, the disgrace word. Yeah, that's a bit strong. But I think this has been a culmination of years of transfer windows as opposed to probably just being this one.
I think that the Arsenal being slow is something that obviously always come forward. And I think there's almost like a fear, especially with this Lisandro Martinez situation and Man United, obviously is going on at the same time. There's this fear that we're going to miss out on our primary target. The Vlahovic situation in January, I think, also escalated this because we missed out on a target. I say missed out. He never wanted to come to Arsenal. He never had an interest in joining Arsenal. He always wanted to go to Juventus. But I think it's more around kind of the time that was wasted. Now, the difference, between that and say now is that Arsenal have done their business early. We're trying to get our business done. Arsenal have signed 3 players. A fourth is soon to be announced in Gabriel Jesus. He was a massive, massive signing for Arsenal. Fabio Vieira is a surprise one that came out of nowhere that in itself proved that we do stuff behind the scenes that we just don't know is going on. And so we will get some information, be it true or not. And sometimes stuff goes on that we just don't know about. And then you've got a couple of depth signings like Matt Turner and Marquinhos that have come in. And the fact that we've got this Raphinha decision before the end of June, before, the 2 days after players have just returned to pre-season means that there's time. There's time for Arsenal to go and get, if they want to, an alternative. Now, in my view, they should do. The criticism for me, Albert, will come at the end of the window if we've not signed the 3 positions that I look to have be done by the end of the season, which is by the end of the window, wide forward, centre midfield, and a versatile defender like Martinez. That's when I think the criticism will be valid, is if we don't do our business for those 3 positions by the end of the window.
Yeah. Tom, on that as well, I'm gonna come back to that. The thing, I think the thing for me as well is, and this is not just going into this window, this has been a problem with Arsenal for a number of years, right? Which hasn't helped. I know people talk about us not being in the Champions League for however many such years, right? Our inability as a club to bring in decent money for players we let go has absolutely bit us on the proverbials. It has, Tom. Like, and I'm not talking about necessarily the quality of players. I look at people like Chelsea, for example. They got good money for Kurt Zuma. They got very good money for Tammy Abrahams. They got very good money for Tomori. And obviously the big sale of Hazard. Liverpool, obviously we talk about Coutinho, but let's not forget the likes of selling Solanke and Jordan Ibe and Sadio Mane. Obviously, they recuperate money well. And that would help in order to get players in a bit quicker. And I hear this term about, you know, Tom, is thrown around a lot, paying over the odds. Yeah. Tom, they all do it. Tom, they all do it. We done it with Ben White. We done it with Pepe. It doesn't matter where you're on the league. The football's changed. The landscape changed so much in terms of you will have to pay over the odds. So again, when we come back to, we talk about anger within the Arsenal fan base community and looking at transfers. I get it to a point, but as people keep telling me, Tom, it's early in the transfer window. And what they're going to tell me in a 3 weeks' time is it's only pre-season. Then they're going to tell me no one else has done any business. I've seen this record play time and time again.
What do you think solves it? What solves this record being the same record over and over again?
It's tough, Tom, because we don't have the same people in charge at sort of board level. We've had different people come in now. Obviously, Edu's been here, and people still feel the same things are still happening. So it's a cycle of so many years of not so good in terms of Gazidis, and we bring up Sinelli, and I think, Tom, you know what? With that, it's not a quick fix. I'm not an expert in terms of, you know, negotiations. If I was, I'd be at Arsenal making all the transfer deals, you know. But Arsenal fans are not going to like it. But unfortunately, you know, maybe we just haven't been very good in terms of who the Cronkies have employed to look after these sort of issues.
That's the criticism for me. You know, that's the big thing with the Cronkies is the decision making of appointments. I haven't got a bugbear about the money. I haven't got a bugbear about you know, the lack of investment, because until 2018 they didn't have full control. So I don't have, you know, I've got no qualms about investment side, because Arsenal, and let's be real, have spent money. You know, we spent over £1 billion on players since their first involvement in 2007. So it's not like we haven't spent money. My issue with the Cronkies has been their decision-making upon appointments, upon the people they've put in charge at certain executive levels. You know, the amount of 40-ish-year-olds, no offense, that are at Arsenal in those executive positions, because that's not an experienced age bracket for people that have come out of the game. You know, Arteta is a young manager. Edu is a young technical director. Vinay Venkatesham is a young CEO. Josh Kroenke is a young director. Richard Garlick is more experienced. He's probably the most experienced of the group, for sure, in what he does. And so I was, you know, fine with that appointment. But, you know, Arsenal have made errors in the past. But in fairness, you know, Raul Sanyehi was a pretty experienced fella. You know, worked at Nike, worked at Barcelona, had worked on the Neymar deal, and yet made some terrible decisions. So I suppose there are counter arguments to that, you know, as well. And I think that there's always going to be counter arguments. Go on, mate.
Yeah, so I remember the last part of the first question you asked me, but about players in certain areas. The thing with me, and I've probably said it on my channel 100 times already, but probably people in the chat might agree, disagree, but I don't want to go into next season with the same midfield options that we have. That cannot happen. Now, the problem you've got is, Tom, Xhaka staying. Elneny's being given another year. Lokonga's not going to go out on loan. Torreira's still part of this football club. So there has to be a movement in that. And obviously Thomas Partey, sorry, I cannot forget Thomas Partey, our best player in the midfield. But it's just, if that doesn't get addressed, I mean, in terms of the Tielemans situation, for example, Tom, I would drive to Leicester and bring him to Arsenal tomorrow. I don't see the cons. I see some Arsenal fans sort of not rip him, Tom. That's a bit harsh, but they are very quick to write him off. But then on the same token, they're very quick to defend players that they know need to be moved on at Arsenal, or they know are not good enough in that area of the pitch.
The frustration for me with the Tielemans situation is a frustration that I don't have with the Raphinha situation. Is I feel the difference between, say, 25 million and 32 million is not as big as the difference between going from, say, 45 million to 55, 60 million for a player. It's a very different contextual scenario. And that, for me, is an issue which may crop up in the Martinez situations. If we don't get that Martinez deal done, how far away were we and why didn't we push for that deal? The Raphinha situation, I'm more amenable to understand why they didn't because of budgetary reasons. And it's obviously a position that's not anywhere near as high up in the priorities as centre midfield and the versatile defender position. So I kind of have an understanding for that. Albert, we're going to have our next caller on. So I'm going to thank you for your time, my friends, and for setting up the conversation. Bro. Always a pleasure. Tell people where they can find you and what you're going to be up to.
Tom, you are too kind to let me plug my channel. Yes, I've got my own channel. I am 21 subscribers off 1K, so it's getting there. It's getting there. It's getting there. I'll be doing some stuff with the women's Euros, actually, the Lionesses, which I'm looking forward to doing. Yes, collabing with some other YouTuber channels. So looking forward to it, man. Supporting Captain Williamson and Serena Wiedemann's Red and White Army. So I will get back on the Arsenal train. A lot of personal things have been going on, but you know, we will get there eventually.
Albert, thank you so much for coming on. People, Albert JTV on YouTube. Last time we shouted out the channel, we hit him so far up the sub count. There's nearly 700 of you watching. We need 21 people, just to get him. You know, let's give Albert the push he deserves. Thank you, my friends.
So, much love, man.
Again soon. Always, bro.
Take care,
Have
man.
a good one. See you later. Massive thank you to Albert for coming on the show. Before we get our next guest on, just dip into the chat box quickly. Grant says, silly comments like the club is holding us back. I mean, how the F do we know? It's always a good question to point out. How do we know about certain things that are going on? Let's go to Eugene. Says, don't agree with the disgrace stuff. My issue is Arteta's first choice wide man has been missed, and I think we could have wrapped it up if we were quicker / had better operators. MD says, why is everybody so hyped about Raphinha? Do you really need him? We should go for Tielemans, Martinez, and another big forward. Seems to be really creating that discussion. If you, of course, disagree with the point of view that we're discussing and you're thinking, what on earth are these guys talking about, then make sure you get in touch. The information on how to get in touch if you do have a differing view is down the bottom of your screen. Let's bring in our next caller for today's show. It's Dushyant. How you doing, Dushyant? You good? You well, my friend?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I hope you and the family are doing well as well, Tom.
Very good. You might not have to hold your mic, actually, it turns out. You might just be able to speak. It should be fine. Talk for me.
Okay.
Just so we can yeah, it's fine. You can talk without holding it. You're all good. You're all good.
Okay.
Yeah, tell me where your head's at, mate, with this Raphinha thing. Arteta and Edu being described as a disgrace for missing out on it. Where's your head at?
Like, for me, even Ben White is not being saved from this all. You know, Ben White thing. Ben White is being brought in because he paid 50 million for him, last season. And suddenly everyone is bringing that deal up. Everyone knows that he's English and he's homegrown, right? So we have to pay extra amount of money for him, right? Because he's English, he's homegrown. And Raphinha isn't. So for me, Raphinha's right now worth is like 45 to 50 million, right? Like, I don't think like he's really worth 65 million at the moment. So that for me is like, okay, we can go up to 55 million, 60 million at most, right? But at the end, Chelsea are paying him more money upfront. And that's it. That's how those, like, the transfer market works. And even the agent is playing Chelsea and Arsenal to get the player to Barcelona, right? Even Barcelona just came in right now, as you can see. So it's like how the transfer market works, because everyone has their own agenda, has their own, everyone has to get their pricing and their range and everything. Transfer market makes me go crazy. And actually all the Arsenal fans are like, Edu is disgrace and all that. It's a really tough situation to bring one transfer done. Even Gabriel Jesus took a lot of time, a lot of, backlinking. We, as even Edu mentioned in his interview in the Fabio Vieira one, like they planned it for 6 months and they got in contact with agents, and then he built up they talked, and that's how this whole signing came through. Same would have been with Raphinha, but Leeds want 65 million, and we are not going to pay that because we think like he's 55 million or thereabout. So at most we will pay that much amount. Same was the case last season. If you go back to the last season, Bundia, right? I know that you like Bundia so much as a player.
Yeah.
It was a painful experience for all of the Arsenal fans. But Arsenal decided that we weren't going to pay 33, 35 million pounds for him, right? And then came Madison and Odegaard deal, right? Madison was like priced at 55 million, 60 million, right? Or more than that even. So we decided we are not going to pay that high amount. So there are always talented players available in the market. As you know, more respected guys like Clive has said in many podcasts, in Gooner Talk, in Arsenal Vision podcast even. So he keeps on saying that there are talented players available in the market. So you can get like Diaby, you can even get Chukwueze, Samuel Chukwueze, Pedro Gonçalves, as you said in the morning, or even Amin Gori, as you mentioned on your Twitter as well. So there are players available that you can get on in the market. There are always talented players available. And even I think Serge Gnabry can come at Arsenal, I think, in my opinion, because I agree that maybe he wants, Champions League football, and his high wages could be a little problem. But look at Lukaku, right? Lukaku wanted to go to Inter Milan desperately. So he took a wage cut, right, to go back to Inter Milan. So there has to be some kind of, player within that. If he wants to come back to the Emirates, he will take a wage cut, if he wants to come back, that is. So there are, player choices as well, agent talks as well, where agent wants to, get his utmost commission from, right? And you probably know this or don't know this, I don't know. But Raphinha's agent, Deco, is actually Barcelona's chief scout for South America region. So he's bringing in, those players from South America region for Barcelona. So they already have that link with Deco, right? Barcelona president Laporte and Deco already have that link established. So probably that's why the deal is now Barcelona coming in back. So probably Leeds can get a player in return, or swap deal. They can make it work, just like how Italian market even works, right? Like we were interested in Vlahovic or like Locatelli, but Juventus always get their player because they are the heroes of the market. They have agents linked with it.
They hate we hate them more than anything. Yeah,
yeah. But this transfer market is how it really works. So I have a question for all the chat right now, the chat box, right? Is Raphinha really worth 65 million? That's my question for you as well, and for the chat box. Do you think is he worth 65 million?
In short, I think he's a 65 million pound player, just on market value. Probably, yeah. Should Arsenal go to that level if it compromises their other deals? Then probably not. And I think that's the difference for Arsenal, is the context of the market. Dushan, I feel like I can't really disagree with anything you've said regarding that topic. I think that we probably share most of our views, but I really appreciate you jumping on, and I hope you get a lot of responses as well in the chat box to your answer. I'm seeing a lot of answers saying already know that he's not worth 65 million. I think just on his raw quality he probably is. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Dushan, I'm going to bring on our next caller as well because I'm really pressed for time. But thank you for coming on, and thank you for putting your views out there. Really appreciate that, mate.
Yeah, thank you for bringing me on, Tom. And you guys can find me. You guys can find me on Twitter at dushant.afc. That's where most of my these points go across. So yeah.
Brilliant stuff. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. Have a good one. See you later.
Good night.
Massive thank you to Dushant for coming on the show. Let's swiftly move on to our next caller. Let's bring in Eds, who joins us from London. How you doing, mate? You good? You well?
How you doing, mate? Yeah, I'm all good. Can you hear me well?
I can hear you absolutely perfectly, mate. So,
Perfect.
yeah, tell me where your head's at on this Raphinha situation.
I think it's pretty simple. I think we've been like the losers of the transfer market for too long in terms of not getting them big players. I mean, we can say like Aubameyang and Lacazette, that was a good deal. That was a good work in the transfer market, but we never really cemented ourselves as that club, you know, like we've seen Chelsea do it, we've seen Man United do it. Man United failed doing it and they've overloaded on it, but we've never really had that impact of like, okay, we're this club, we're making a statement. I think we have the money, we should spend the money. I know that we have Saka as a backup, not as a backup. We have Saka that's probably always going to start, but I still believe that having that Raphinha option would make our team that top 4, that top 3 challenger that we need to be.
So is it for you a frustration, obviously, that we didn't get the player? And obviously, I agree with you. I think if we'd have signed Raphinha, it would have been a really good statement signing. You know, I was listening to Hugh Izzy talk about this earlier on today and kind of what it would mean to get someone like him into the club. Arsenal not getting him, where for you is the criticism? Where's the valid criticism towards the club for not getting him?
It's difficult because I know there's a lot of complications, but like for me, the criticism is like just not being able to be that strong now and make it happen. And I feel like it is always difficult to say because there's always complications, but like we have the money, we had the opportunity. Has he fully gone now? Is it done?
It's not a case of being fully done, but it seems as though Chelsea obviously are willing to offer more money than Arsenal are willing, but also Barcelona aren't out of this either. And, you know, that's his preference. But I think it's very unlikely now he moves to Arsenal.
Yeah. I mean, look, to be fair, we have Saka, we've got Smith Rowe, we've got Martinelli. We're okay in that department, but it would have been amazing. Like, we're going to watch him at Chelsea and be like, why couldn't he be playing for us? We're going to watch him play against us and just be so upset by the fact he's ripping us up on the wing. But yeah, Can
you understand why the club didn't go to 65 million, say, to get this done? Because that's the total package. I think it was around 55 up front and then add-ons.
Yeah, I can understand because we do need Martinez. I think if we go in fully for him and get him, I think that's much more important. We still need to get a centre defensive mid or like out and out centre mid. So maybe I get that it's like, cool, we go 65 million here, we're going to be short on another position. So I understand, but like, I don't know. I got really excited just like watching your shows every morning being like, oh my God.
I can only apologize.
Nah, do you know what I mean? But like any one of us watching would be like, if we even had the slightest chance of signing Raphinha and we had found out about this in January, we would have been like, oh, do that now. So it's just like, I don't know. It just feels like a bit of a low point in the Arsenal fandom again, of just being like, okay, well, we're not that club yet. But
just before I get the next caller on, Ed, what do you make of kind of, because from listening to what you're saying, you know, I understand your frustrations, but I'm not sensing you're someone that's going out there and, you know, hammering the manager or the recruitment team about not getting Raphinha, or you're clearly disappointed with it, as most fans are, but you seem understanding about the reasons as to why. So what do you make of kind of the hyperbole, the exaggeration around like the labeling of Edu as a disgrace for not getting this done? What do you kind of make of that?
I think that anyone who doesn't trust the club didn't watch the last transfer window. Like, sorry, not January. 2021.
Last summer. 2021. Good save.
Look at Ramsdale. Look how well he's doing. I know we could say Tavares wasn't that good, but the signings that Arteta and Edu are making are amazing. Like, our club transformed last season. Like, if you don't trust their business in the transfer market, then you're not an Arsenal fan because you're not seeing the process.
Oh, that's strong. That's very strong,
man. We have too many haters as Arsenal fans, and that's the problem with our club. It's just people love to spat all this crazy talk about with this and with that. If you actually love this club, you will trust the process and you will watch it, not trying to pick at every single mistake that Arteta or Edu possibly makes. I'm upset that we didn't get him, but I'm not like, okay, this means it's Arteta out. I think this is his crucial season because now we have that striker and we will obviously make a couple more signings, but like, you got to trust it because look at last season. You have to trust it.
I don't agree with you saying they're not Arsenal fans if they are strong.
I mean, it's an exaggeration, but
I know it's an exaggeration.
I'm sick of those fans that just love.
Yeah, look, I'm sick of the. Trust me, I'm sick of the abuse. I'm sick of the exaggeration. I'm sick of the some of the lines that come out too, mate. I absolutely get it. But for me, the ones that cross the line, if you wanted Arsenal to lose, I think that probably crosses a line.
Yeah.
But if you don't trust it, after the years of issues we've had, and to be fair, January wasn't the best. So, I can have absolute respect for people with doubts. So I think that's probably where the head's at. But Ed, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the channel. I really appreciate you coming and putting your view across. Tell people where they can find you if you would like to. You don't have to, but feel free.
Yeah, so mainly just Instagram. You can check my Spotify as well. So Spotify would be Robeson, Robeson, and then Instagram is Ed Robeson, so EDROBESON_. But yeah.
Brilliant.
Cool, man.
Thanks very much for coming on, mate. Appreciate your time.
Appreciate you.
No worries, man. Have a good one. See you later. Massive thank you to Ed joining us from London. Just there, before we get our next caller in, I just want to take a couple of comments from the chat box. Let's go to Barry, who says, why do we give online comments that are patently wrong, issued by bots, or in broken English, the platforms with discussions like this? It's like arguing with a wall. Barry, I think sometimes it's important to highlight, these types of comments sometimes, to highlight that they exist and to tackle them. That's why I do it. I don't think I want them to get away with this kind of chaos, and I don't want them spreading that, that infectious kind of mindset either. I'd rather we tackled it head on and tackled it with reasoning and objectivity. Let's bring on our next caller to the show, someone who's no stranger to coming onto our phone-ins whatsoever. Always a pleasure to speak to him. It's Daniel. How you doing, Daniel? You good? You well, my friend?
What's going on, Tom? How's it going?
Yeah, not bad, fella. Not bad. How are you? You good?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Just, oh my God, mate, the meltdowns over this Raphinha stuff is embarrassing.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's absolutely embarrassing. Like, people get too heavily invested too early before a player's even signed. Do you know what I mean? It reminds me of when you're chatting to a bird online and you've been talking to her for 45 minutes. Yeah, do you know what? When you're talking to her for 45 minutes and you get those people that are like, "Oh, I'm so in love with you." Do you know what I mean? Oh my God, it's the
well,
I love you and I don't want to, I can't live without you. And then when a week later she dumps you, you're like, "Oh, I'm all heartbroken. I've never met her, but I still loved her. She was the love of my life." It's embarrassing, mate. And that's what some of these Arsenal fans are like. They get too heavily invested. And I get the excitement. I get that people, transfer season, people care more about that, sometimes than the actual football itself, because it's a moving part system. But just chill out. It really isn't that deep. And do you know what? I never get too heavily invested in players until they're wearing the Arsenal shirt and it's confirmed on Arsenal, because we've seen it with other clubs time and time before. Look at Willian. He was dead set on going to Tottenham. He was all but going to Tottenham, and then Chelsea come and hijack the deal. So like, these things can happen. It's not, you can't, you've got to just keep an open mind when it comes to players like this. And with Raphinha in particular, there's always been a difficult deal to do. There's been a lot of moving parts in this deal. He wanted to go to Barcelona. They couldn't stump up the money. They had personal terms agreed. Then Arsenal realised that actually we could get a deal done here. And then obviously Chelsea's just come in and gazump that. And actually it looks like that Barcelona is going to gazump both of us. So it's
funny
just,
if they did that.
Do you know what I mean? There's no point in getting too over critical about this, because it happens. It's not just an Arsenal thing. It happens to other clubs as well. I find it hard to take when Arsenal fans go, "Oh, Edu's a disgrace," and all this, and it's only happens to Arsenal. Kroenke's a penny pinching budget FC, and I'm just like, have a word with yourselves. Do you know what I mean? Have you not get a life? Basically.
It's the summer, like the sun's shining outside. You can
go outside.
Wind in your hair, all that stuff,
take your missus out, take her out for a meal, and then take her back and have some nice sex. Do you know what I mean? Don't sit on social media. Do you know what I mean?
Behave, son.
Yeah, but come on, don't sit on social media thinking that Arsenal transfers are the be all and end all of life, because it really isn't that deep. Like, it really
look.
isn't.
Well, I love where you take these conversations, Dan. You never cease to excite me. But you know, we ended up
I'm like a
disagreeing at
bent
the end of
taxi
last
driver,
season.
mate. I'm like a bent taxi driver. I like going around the houses. Do you know what I mean? Getting the most
Goodness
for my
me.
money.
Where
Yeah.
we were talking at the end of the season, Daniel, we disagreed, you know, on Mikel Arteta. And I think that when it comes down to the transfer window, maybe our thoughts are more aligned on this, especially with kind of some of the overreaction that we hear. For me, you know, I'm going to wait until the end of not necessarily the end of the transfer window, but certainly to the start of the season and see what business has been completed by that point. Because the biggest problem last season was that we didn't get our business done quick enough, and we allowed the season to start, and we still not signed Erdegaard and Ramsdale and Tomiyasu, you know, and those players turned out to be crucial for last season and getting us to where we nearly got to. This year, I like what we're seeing. You know, we've got 4 players through the door, if you count Gabriel Jesus as part of that, which looks like it'll be announced in the next couple of days. Fabio Vieira, Matt Turner, Marquinhos. The latter 2, of course, aren't massive signings. They're more depth and strength and reinforcement. But then we're being linked with the possibility of signing a player like Raphinha, which I never thought we would be. And that excites me. And it gives me hope that, you know, for the rest of the window, we're going to continue to try and push for these types of players. But where for you kind of do you see Arsenal this window? Are you also excited about what you're seeing, hearing, and you know, looking at? Or what is it about the window that's really kind of, you know, really getting you excited?
I'm excited about the window. Do you know what? I like the fact that we're trying to compete at that top table. You know, we're trying to compete for the players. The reality is, though, is that as much as we're trying to compete at the top table, we're not there in terms of Champions League football or have that same offering. So there's going to be an element of hoping and trying to convince a player of the project. So yeah, I'm very positive. And like you said, you know, there's a long way to go. There's a lot of legs in this transfer window. There's a long way to go. And you know, we've been here before. And we last year when everyone had a complete meltdown over the fact that Buendia went to Aston Villa. Like it's just it wouldn't be an Arsenal.
I was one of those
people.
I melted down at that. To be fair, I was angry.
but do you know what I mean? Like the you know, in a couple of months when we've got our business done, we won't even be thinking about Raphinha because we'll have got our business done and we'll be like, do you know what? Okay, let's go. Let's see what they do. And I think they're. You know, I think there's options out there. You know, I've said this all along, and a lot of people have disagreed with me and said, "Oh, it's a difficult deal to do." I say, let's go and test the water with Bayern Munich for Serge Gnabry. Now I know it's look, we've got Jesus from a Champions League team, and he's been convinced of the project. Gnabry has got unfinished business at Arsenal. He's got unfinished business in the Premier League. And I actually think if you're prepared to drop 50 million on Raphinha, if you go and take that 50 million to Bayern Munich, he's not going to want to. They're not going to want to turn down that sort of money. The difficulty might be is convincing him with personal terms. But listen, he's got a soft spot for Arsenal, so I actually think that wouldn't take much convincing. If you convince him that, look, come to us, we could get Champions League. You know, you'll be an integral part of the team, which he would be. I always say if Arsenal were looking for a backup option to Raphinha, that is the perfect option. It's just whether they go for it or whether they are going to risk maybe breaking the wage structure to get someone like Gnabry. Anything can happen. You know, they're not looking at it at the moment, but you know, as the window gets deeper and deeper and we get closer to the end, they could go, do you know what? He's available. He's an option. He's not signing his deal at Bayern Munich. Let's go and test the water. Because you can't, despite whatever the fact that whether we get all these targets, you can't fault Arsenal and the recruitment team for their efforts. Because that you can see that they are putting in 100% effort. We're going for players, you know, that we need. And that's all we can do. It's not guaranteed that you're going to get all of them. You're never going to get all of your targets. It's just unrealistic. It's not happening.
Especially outside of the Champions League.
Yeah, and people need to realize that no club goes into a transfer window where they get all of their targets. It's very rare that happens. I know, you know, you can look at the likes of maybe Man City and and maybe Liverpool, but they're in a higher position. They've won stuff. That it's a lot harder when you're building a project to convince a player to go, come and believe in us. It's a lot easier when you're the finished article and you're well known, you know, like Liverpool and Man City are, of winning titles, winning trophies. It's a lot easier for a player to go, well, you've proven it because we've seen it, you know, for ourselves. But when you're starting a project and you're building a project, it takes a lot of convincing, especially to these top level players.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that the idea that Arsenal would get obviously all of their first targets in a window that they don't have Champions League, because we obviously missed out on that, you know, it's not realistic. I think that's the biggest factor. But the fact that as you've said, we've managed to convince Gabriel Jesus, Edu and Mikel Arteta was said to be a huge part of the reason why we could convince them, which is great. With Raphinha, you know, from the start, we always knew, as The Athletic reported, and lots of others too, that Barcelona were his preferred option all the time. He's got this obsession about playing for them. They're obviously in the Champions League. His Brazilian teammate Neymar, of course, who he looks up to, was previously at Barcelona. He's kind of got this complex clearly about playing for Barca. And Arsenal are always going to fight against that. Now, the fact that they've tried to fight it, you know, that gives me encouragement that we're still not scared to go in for big targets, even if they want to move elsewhere. And I think that showed with the Jesus situation. We've seen, and I've done videos on Chelsea fans losing their minds about not going for Jesus. I think, in fact, you know, it's a bit strange that they chose to go for Raphinha instead of Jesus. I find that
I think Jesus is a brilliant signing. I've got to be honest. I loved Jesus when he was at Man City, and the fact that he's come to us, I'm really happy with that. I think he can easily get 20 to 25 goals a season for us in the system that we play. I actually really do genuinely believe that, and I'm really, really positive about Jesus. And I was worried last night when I see all this meltdown over Raphinha that Jesus wasn't going to get the credit he deserves when he eventually does get announced. And I'm glad that Arsenal have maybe left it until tomorrow, because everybody can sort of die down a little bit and get their little tantrums out the way. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I've seen even my 7-year-old daughter is more well behaved than some of these Arsenal fans, and I'm just like, Arsenal have played a blinder in delaying that announcement. And I actually think that Jesus, you know, don't underestimate how good a signing that is. That is a really good signing. You know, he is perfect for us. You see, this Raphinha, if he goes to Chelsea, if he goes to Barcelona, wherever he goes, I mean, I heard somewhere that Chelsea were going to use him as a wing back. Do you really think he wants to go and play there as a wing back? It's ridiculous.
Well, why would you do that? Why? Yeah, that makes no sense. You've built your career playing as a winger, and you're like, nope, we're going to play you at wing back. That makes no sense,
I think he'll end up at Barcelona. That's just my gut feeling. I actually think that, you know, De Jong's going to Man United, even though he doesn't want to. That's more of a club thing. I think they've just forced him out just to get money. And I think he'll end up going to Barcelona. And I think we'll end up getting Martinez. I'd like to think that we can wrap up that deal. And, you know, you've just got to be level-headed about these things, haven't you? It's you know, targets come and go. Deals come and go. We miss players. It's just, you know, the transfer market is very, very competitive. It's so competitive. And, you know, the problem we've got is that all the players we're chasing, Man United are chasing, Tottenham are chasing, you know, so we're competing with those guys. Right? Tottenham have Champions League football. Man United, I always say, if it comes down to a straight race between us and Man United, we'll win, because Man United are awful at the moment. They're trying to convince them that they're going in the right direction. I mean, good luck with that. But it's hard, Tom. It's hard. You've just got to. Everyone just needs to chill out, enjoy the summer. You know, what happens. What gets decided. You know, there's going to be a lot of twists and turns. It's going to be a roller coaster until the end of the window. So let's all just calm down. It's not the end of the world.
I absolutely agree with you, mate. And we've got our next caller coming on, but I just want to take a massive thank you, Daniel, for coming on the show. As always a genuine pleasure. You always make me laugh, and you've managed to do
I
that
always
again.
like to,
With some great lines.
I always say the same on my channel as well. I always say the same thing on my channel. You've got to have a bit of perspective in things.
Absolutely, man. Well, I appreciate your time as always. Make sure you give your channel a shout out. Tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, so my channel is Daniel Bailey TV. I'm trying to hit that 4K, which is trying to get there before the start of the season. So if everybody please goes and heads over, if you can find the link and drop it in for the guys there, please go and give me a subscribe. Would really, really appreciate it. But really enjoy coming on here, Tom. It's been
Always a pleasure to speak to you. Always a pleasure, mate. I'll catch you again very soon. I'm putting the link to your channel in the chat box as we speak. So make sure people, if you haven't already subscribed to Daniel Bailey TV, you go and do that. Daniel, I will speak to you very soon, I'm sure. Have a good day, my friend.
Cheers. Thanks, Tom. Take care, guys. Come on, you Gunners.
Absolutely. Massive thank you to Daniel for coming on the show as always. We're going to move on to our next caller straight away. Again, someone who's not unfamiliar with coming onto our phone-in shows at all. We're joined by Brandon. How you doing, Brandon? You good? You well, my friend?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. How are you?
Yeah, very good. You got your phone on silent this time because last time we spoke, Brandon was quite literally the most popular man on the planet with the amount of phone calls he was getting. But yeah, so all good now. All good. You enjoying the weather? Enjoying the happy sunshine?
Yeah, of course.
Nice.
Yeah, it's nice to chill out without Arsenal causing too much stress. Of course, it's never a smooth ride in transfer window with Arsenal. We know this, but you know, they're not causing too much stress at the moment. It's nice to enjoy a few barbecues with the family and a few pints with the mates and that. So yeah, good stuff.
Indeed. Yeah, I mean, the start to the window has been very un-Arsenal. You know, we're doing stuff early, which is nice, and I appreciate it. I know that, you know, myself and you don't agree on everything that we talk about, but, you know, I think the start of the window has certainly showed a reaction to some of the mistakes we made in 2021. You know, we did stuff way too late. It cost us points at the start of the season, and we're seeing a change. Bring it around to kind of the topic at hand and this Raphinha situation. I just want to kind of gauge where your head's at first. So just tell me where you're kind of thinking around it.
Mixed emotions really about this one. I mean, top player Raphinha, I rate him quite highly. I think he would have been a good signing. However, to me, you know, Arsenal got to prioritise for me. I mean, you're looking at a player there that's going to go to Chelsea or Barcelona for 60, 65 million pound. I just feel like that 60, 65 million pound could be spent better elsewhere. Do you know what I mean? Like, I look at our midfield, for example. Most football matches are won and lost in the midfield. I think our midfield is probably our weakest part of our team. So for me, if you're going to go and spend that sort of money, I'd rather see, you know, Arsenal go and spend it on a top quality midfielder that can potentially come in and be that number 8 that we need, or even as a little bit of cover for Thomas Partey, because if we're being completely honest, Thomas Partey is very injury prone. The chances of him picking up another long-term injury next season is quite high. Same with Kieran Tierney as well. I mean, them two areas in particular, I think we need to address before we even think about a player like Raphinha. I mean, obviously, we definitely need another winger who can come in and take the place of Saka, so Saka can get a bit of a rest, and Martinelli as well, because I think we relied far too heavily on them two in particular last season. But I don't think it's a priority at the moment. So for me, you know, I look at it, I think, you know, the club's made an official £55 million bid. I'd rather they go and spend that money elsewhere in a position of priority. But what I would say about the whole situation is obviously it looks like we've lost out. It's not, you know, been made official yet, but it looks like we've lost out. What I would say is I don't want Arsenal fans to take their foot off the neck of the board now and the football club, because it's been made pretty clear there that we've got £55 million to spend, even though we brought in the likes of Gabriel Jesus and Fabio Vieira as well. So we have got the money there. I don't want Arsenal doing what they did in January and thinking, oh, well, you know, we didn't get the player we want, so we're going to save that money and potentially use it in a different transfer window. That can't happen, because we need so many different positions address him this summer, that, you know, we have to spend that money regardless of whether we get a Raphinha or, you know, another player in a different position.
Yeah, like for me, I've said the criticism for me will come at the end of not even at the end of the window. It'll come for me at the start of the season. You know, if we've not gone and secured the positions that we need to secure by the start of the season, the priority areas, which I agree with you, central midfield for me was the priority. We had to get someone that was, you know, better than Granit Xhaka for me on that left-hand side, which, you know, for all of Granit Xhaka's faults, it's not an easy task trying to bring in a midfielder in a summer window that's better than him. And that, you know, is a testament to what he does bring. But I agree with you. I'd rather have seen £65 million if that's what it was going to cost to go on a midfielder. I'd bring up Sergej Milinkovic-Savic a lot because I feel he's that world-class level that you want to see him perfect for a number 8 role, and then say spend 25-30 million that we could have spent on, say, a Tielemans, who I wouldn't necessarily class as world-class yet, on, say, you know, a wide forwards like a Cody Gakpo that you can maybe get for around that kind of figure. I think that would be a better use of Arsenal's funds. I understand why they've gone for Raphinha. You know, they see him clearly as a profile of player that they think is a good opportunity to go for. They think that he's going to help Arsenal push towards their targets and score more goals. But in a way, you know, kind of to talk back to the point, we've not gone for him. We've supposedly, as you say, offered around the 55s. We've not got close to that 65s that Leeds want. For me, I kind of like that. I know some people won't because they'll think, well, you know, Arsenal just penny pinching again. But I think if Arsenal have a valuation of a player and they think they've got this money and they're better off spending it elsewhere, of course, we'll only know come the end of the period of time we've got to make these transfers. But if we do go out and, say, sign players of quality in other positions and we've gone, no, we're not going to go to that level of Raphinha because it would compromise what we want to do in other positions, then fair play. Like, how do you kind of view Arsenal not going? Is it the same as the penny pinching Arsenal under Arsene Wenger, or do you think there is a difference to it?
Difficult one, really, because kind of like just how you said, we'll only really know at the end of the at the end of the transfer window. Because if Arsenal don't spend that money, then you could sit there and say, yeah, that's Arsenal penny pinching. Because I don't know, it's a tough situation, really. I mean, when you think about it as a fan, you could even say, you know, why don't Arsenal go and match the bid that Chelsea have made? And then it's up to the player then to decide. And if he decides to go to Chelsea, then fair play to him. Because let's be honest, as fans, you know, let's be honest right now, if you're picking between Arsenal and Chelsea, you're going to Chelsea purely and simply because they're one of the most successful clubs in recent times. They win things, you know, they've got the ambition there. Whereas we're just slowly trying to build back to, you know, where we need to be at the moment. So for a player of Raphinha, you know, maybe it depends on the ambition of the player as well. But for me, I'm not too bothered about it. You know, I'm not too bothered about it. I think, like I said, you know, better spent elsewhere. I mean, when if we go back to Fabio Vieira, for example, I don't know much about the player, although a lot of Arsenal fans seem to be expert on him all of a sudden. But that to me was kind of a bit of a strange signing, because it was like, well, he's more of an attacking-minded player.
Yeah, I won't disagree with you. It was a surprise to me that we went for him, yeah.
And it was kind of like, is it a position that we need addressing desperately? No, not really. So I was a little bit like, But with the whole Raphinha thing, I could understand that a little bit more because obviously Arsenal have gone from having Aubameyang, Lacazette and Eddie Nketiah, 3 strikers, to now we've got 2 strikers. So if they're not planning on investing in another striker, then maybe you can get goals elsewhere. Like we got a lot of goals from the wings last season through Saka and that. And kind of if you're giving Saka a rest, you don't want too much of a drop off on that side. And Raphinha could probably fill in, do a better job than maybe a Gakpo or somebody like that. So that's maybe Arsenal's thinking there. But it'll be interesting to see, won't it? Like if they do invest this money in a position of priority, or if they do potentially go out and get another striker that can offer us something different up front. You know, a bit like a Dominic Calvert-Lewin, player that can win headers and stuff like that. Jesus, again, I like him as a player, but I'm very cautious in talking about him a little bit, purely and simply because I mean, a lot of fans get on my back about this because obviously he doesn't start regularly for Manchester
He starts
City.
a lot. I mean, he started, what,
does start a
22
lot.
Premier League games last season, I think?
Yeah, but he's not an all-out regular for Manchester City, so it's hard to judge
Not
him
many
a
of
little
them,
bit.
though, to be fair, you know.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
I kind of went back and I looked at the stats, and when I say stats, I mean the stats that matter. So games played, goals scored, and assists created.
Yeah.
And if you look at Jesus and Lacazette, they are pretty much identical in terms of goals scored, games played, and assists created. So it's hard to gauge how well Gabriel Jesus would do at Arsenal. I think he's a better all-round player than Lacazette, and I think he'll suit the system a bit more than what Lacazette did. But at the same time, I also think, you know, we could potentially end up needing more than that as well, because Eddie Nketiah, for as good an end of the season as he had, is he a player that you can rely on to score, say, 15 goals a season? I'm not so sure just yet. Gabriel Jesus will almost guarantee you 10 to 15 goals. But I also think we need that player who could guarantee you 20 goals a season, a bit like Abadian, or a player that can at least chip in with another 10, 15 goals. And another thing I'd say on Jesus as well is, although he didn't play game after game after game for Manchester City, Man City are one of the teams in world football that create the most chances. So for him to only come up with, say, 15 goals, and he's only played, say, 20 odd games, he's going to have a lot of chances in them games because they create so much. So he's not going to get that at Arsenal because we don't create as much as what Manchester City do. So therefore, he has to be a bit more clinical with us because he won't get as many chances as he does at Man City. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to gauge with Gabriel Jesus. I do think he's definitely the best striking option that we could have gone for. So I do think it will be a good signing. Whether it's enough to get us back to, you know, that threat that we had before, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I'll pick up a couple of things that you talked about. We'll start off with kind of the Vieira thing. I, like you, was surprised that we spent as much as we did on an attacking midfielder. And, I'm not going to try and pretend I knew much about him. I didn't. I've had to do my research, had to speak to people who do know a lot more about him. And they can't really speak highly enough of him. They seem to really think he's something special. And that's obviously good news, but he needs to prove it in the Premier League first. What's interesting, I think, though, when I thought about it harder as to why we did, and I listened to what Edu said, and I know it's listening to what the guy who signed him says, but you talked about how we don't really have anyone that plays close to the forward line in a creative sense. Of course, Ødegaard's probably the closest we have, but he has started to play in more of a deeper role under Arteta in that kind of right centre midfield position. I think that when Ødegaard's not really on it, we really struggle, to kind of be creative. Ødegaard's having a really good game. Usually Arsenal are having a good game. But
it's almost not, exactly. It's almost like an Ødegaard system. You know what I mean? Like if Ødegaard plays well, we play well. If Ødegaard doesn't play well, we tend not to play well. Yeah, you're right, 100%.
So if maybe Fabio Vieira has been looked at as that guy that if Ødegaard isn't, and we've got 5 subs next season, of course, that isn't working, he's got a competitor. He's got to be on his game as much as possible, because if he's not, he'll be dropped. At the moment, he's got no one that can really push him. Smith Rowe isn't pushing him in that position because he's seen more as a wide forwards kind of thing when his attacking sense. And he hasn't really worked at 10 a lot for Arsenal, to be honest. When he's deputised for Ødegaard, it's not necessarily worked. He's good off the bench for an impact, but it's not always worked. I think that with Fabio Vieira, we're bringing in someone who can offer us more creativity, can add more goals. And it's interesting you were talking about goals with Jesus, to kind of pick up the other point. Like Spurs scored 8 more goals than us last season to get 4th place. But then you're jumping up 15 more goals at Chelsea. And then to get anywhere close to City and Liverpool, you've got to score over 90 goals during a season. And Arsenal scored 61. Goals were the big problem. It's no secret. Arsenal just didn't score enough goals last campaign. We had Aubameyang and Lacazette that just weren't scoring. And Nketiah came in at the end, arguably based on his form. Arteta should have made that decision sooner to drop Lacazette and bring someone else in. And yeah, I, like you, have doubts that Eddie Nketiah can put that down. We've seen a little glimpse of maybe showing us he can. If you can get 5 goals in 8 starts and do that across a season, then obviously you're looking at 15 to 20 Premier League goals. But that's a big ask to look at an 8-game sample size and think that he's going to do it across a whole season. Let's see. I think from my perspective, he would have qualified for the Champions League. Maybe Nketiah still renews, but I also think we probably would have been going for 2 strikers instead of the 1 because we didn't qualify for the Champions League. I think because of the number of positions we had to target in attacking midfield, clearly, the versatile defender in Martinez, a central midfielder, a wide forward, the depth signings like Turner and Marquinhos, that they clearly felt that renewing Nketiah was a way around to stick with the budget and still being able to try and attack those other positions. I mean, obviously me and you disagreed at the end of the last season on Arteta. Going into the new season, where's your head at in regards to expectations? I'm curious to kind of how your measure of success for next season is going to
be. For me, he has to get top 4. There's no. Would
you say 5th in a Europa League win is good enough?
Yeah, well, yeah. Let's rephrase that then. He has to get Champions League football.
Yeah, okay.
Whether that be through league position or Europa League win. I think it'll be more difficult for us next season. But with the money that he's spent and the time that he's been here now, he's kind of implemented everything that he wants to implement. He's got the players as well. He's been given the players. He's been given the funds. There can't be any excuses anymore. For Arsenal Football Club to be out of the Champions League as long as we have is not good enough anyway, regardless of Arteta or anybody else. So for me, what are we now? 6 seasons out of the Champions League?
Yeah, was it more 2016? I think it was 2016-17 was our last season in the Champions League. So yeah, it's a 5-6 years.
6 years, nearly 7 years. We have to get back in the Champions League at a bare minimum. I'd like to see him potentially pick up a domestic trophy as well. Like even if it's like an FA Cup or a League Cup, I think that is a successful season for us next season. I think if we was to finish 5th, 6th, 7th, and then make the final of the Europa League and lose, a bit like what happened to Unai Emery, I suppose.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call that a successful season. I would say it'd be time to move on from Arteta personally.
Yeah, I think if we get to the end of next season, we've not qualified for the Champions League. We've missed out on both counts. It's going to be very difficult to kind of defend that position. Very difficult indeed.
I do also think that the just give me 2 seconds, mate. Sorry. I do also think as well the pressure is going to be massive on Arteta next season. I think,
especially if we spend upwards of £150 million again. Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. We can't go into a season like we did last season where we lose the first 3 games, because I think if that was to happen again, I think it'd be gone. I don't think it'd take much.
Anyway. We've got Crystal Palace, Fulham, and who else? There's someone else I'm forgetting on the opening days of the season. But, we've got, the first 5 games, I think, are pretty winnable. There's a situation where Arsenal could find themselves, putting on I'm not going to say a title charge, but, standing near the top of the table after the first 5 games. We've got Palace, Leicester, Bournemouth, Fulham, Villa, and then we play United. And, United's are going to be under a new coach. They're going to be gettable. Yes, it's at Old Trafford, and we've got 1 win there since 2006, which obviously came under Arteta. But, that was quite a fortunate victory at the time. You then got Everton, Brentford, and then Spurs on the 1st of October at home. A game that Arsenal fans will be expecting Arsenal to win, because the North London derby at home is a game that we expect to win. So there's a reality where, we can really kick off the season well. And if we don't, and if we drop points in these games, as you say, I agree, the pressure is going to mount very, very quickly. And that's why I think it's been so important that we get, obviously, the players in as soon as possible, so they can acclimatise, assimilate into the squad. If we miss out on targets like Raphinha, we give ourselves an opportunity to move to another target, and it's not too late in the window. The season's already kicked off. So, I have to give props to Edu and Arteta for moving quickly in this window. I just hope it's successful. Brandon, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time, as always. Do you want to finish the show with some final thoughts? Go for it.
Yeah, just real quickly before you move on or whatever. I just wanted to get your thoughts on the Eddie Nketiah new deal.
Just my random thoughts. Yeah, I'm unsurprised they gave him $100,000 a week, but I wouldn't have given him $100,000 a week. I think that I understand the reasons behind, as I said to you a second ago, around why if we missed out on Champions League, it was a way of basically getting and keeping a striker that can score you goals, as we know from the end of last season, without having to invest 20, 30 million plus in another striker, so they could then attack other options. Had we have qualified for the Champions League, I would have probably preferred to see us move on from him, because it would have been an opportunity to do that. And I would have liked to see us go for a Jonathan David or someone like that instead, and bring someone on top of Jesus, bring 2 proper strikers in. But because we didn't, I understand why they, gave him the new deal. But we have got some players on mental contracts that we need to, sort out. And I worry that with Saka, obviously, we looks like going on to a new deal. Smith Rowe's on a new deal. Martinelli's on a new deal. Odegaard, these players that are very young are already on big wages. Thinking 2-3 years down the line, we could find ourselves in a bit of an issue when trying to renew deals. And all of a sudden, the whole squad's on over 100 grand a week. Like, that's a worry and a real concern.
Yeah, see,
does that answer your question, or is there any other?
No, just kind of reiterating on the point that you just made. I think that was my biggest thing as well. Not only am I questioning whether Nketiah is good enough, but to put him on £100,000 a week almost spells trouble for me, because if you remember rightly, when we wasn't qualifying for Champions League, we was having to, in order to convince players to sign for us, we was having to overpay them in terms of wages. That's why you found, Mesut Ozil on £350,000 a week, Aubameyang on high wages.
Was on a mad wage as well.
Yeah, exactly. Lacazette, everybody was on a mad wage at Arsenal. I kind of worry that Arsenal offering that sort of money to Nketiah, you're going to get players now that are going to go, well, do you know what? Like, for example, Saka, he might to do his deal now, he might say, do you know what? You put Eddie on 100 grand a week. What's he done? I've carried your team for the past 2 seasons. I want 200 grand a week. And then all of a sudden, when you're trying to convince that next level of player to come in, they're going, well, do you know what? We've seen in the past that you can afford to pay Mesut Ozil 350 grand a week. You paid Eddie Nketiah 100 grand a week. I want 300 grand a week. And then all of a sudden, we're back in that cycle again, where we've got players that are overpaid and we're not really gaining the... Do you know what I mean from it?
We're not for it. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I think you would really struggle to find anyone who would come up with a genuine argument that says that giving Eddie 100 grand a week is a no risk scenario, because it is absolutely a risk scenario. There is risk associated with this. I was very cautious around the Balogun situation of giving him too much money, because if you give a player that's not even played senior football really a huge fee, which we've ended up doing, he's on around 40 grand a week. That's a lot of money for someone that's not. I mean, Fabio Vieira's on nearly half that. So, when you think about things like that, it does give kind of a low, not a low ball, a high ball kind of target for those youngsters to go, I'm going to run my contract down and I'm going to be in control of my future. And if you want to keep me, you've got to pay up. And I find that ridiculous. Just lastly, because I'm curious to get your view, because I know it's different to a lot of others. The title of this video was based around comments that I've seen on social media and obviously in the comment sections as well, that missing out on Raphinha is a disgrace. Is that exaggeration? Is that hyperbole? Or do you understand the anger? Like, where's your head at with that?
Well over exaggeration.
Yeah.
It's kind of ironic, really, because our fan base, like, I've seen it on Twitter, and I know Twitter's not really the place to gauge our fan base.
It's all evil.
It's all exactly. But you do see a lot of Arsenal fans. Like, I see a lot of Arsenal fans when the news broke that we'd made a bid for Raphinha, like, putting up photos of Raphinha with love hearts on it and all that stuff. Do you know what I mean? Him in an Arsenal shirt, making threads on him and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, now the news has come out that, Chelsea have stolen March, and the chances are he's going to go to Chelsea or Barcelona even. They're like, oh, well, we didn't need him anyway. And it's like, well, what? Oh, he's too much money anyway. I think it's an over-exaggeration to say it's a disgrace. I think, like I said, I would have liked to have been able to sign him, but no, it's not a disgrace. I think, if Arsenal go and spend that money on a midfielder or in a position of priority and on a good top quality player, I think Arsenal fans will forget about the whole Raphinha thing anyway. But it all comes down to the trust of the football club again. Like Arsenal fans, and I don't blame them either, and I'm very much the same, tend to not trust the football club too much because of our recent, history in terms of our transfer windows and stuff like that. So it's right for Arsenal fans to not have the trust there for the club to go out and spend the money, definitely. But we just have to wait and see what happens, and we kind of judge it at the end of the window. That's what I would say.
Brandon, I appreciate your time, my friends, as always, and hopping onto the channel. Tell people they can find you, of course, as always.
True Gunners TV. Make sure you go over there and subscribe. I'll be back again next season.
Lovely stuff. Appreciate
your time.
No worries, man. No worries at all. Always a pleasure to chat, and I'll catch you soon, I'm sure.
Cheers, buddy.
Cheers, man. Have a good one. Massive thank you to Brandon and to all of my guests on today's phone-in. That does bring us to quite a nice close, actually. I think it's really good and healthy to discuss these kind of things. And, specifically with Brandon as well, because me and Brandon don't agree on a lot of things. But, when it reaffirms my faith a lot in the fan base when, you're not on the same wavelength as people, but yet can also see that this is mental. Some of the things that we've seen on social media in the last, I was going to say 24 hours, but that would be an incredibly wild understatement. If we're speaking frankly, we know that some of the ridiculous comments that we see online, on social media, on Twitter, on YouTube, wherever, whether it's abuse, whether it's wishing the club to lose, whether it's death threats, whether it's just stupid comments, this fan base does embarrass us sometimes. A portion of it, I should be fair, a portion of this fan base does embarrass us sometimes. And hopefully we work to try and highlight that as much as we can. What we always recognize, though, you see these comments and we get them in my comment sections and the chat box, of course, is that when we do these phone-in shows, where are they? They're never here. The amount of people that, unfortunately, I couldn't get on today's show, I apologize. There was a lot of people that really, agreed with the point of view. And for the benefit of the conversation, I wanted to try and make it as diverse as possible. But thank you to everyone that did come on. Hopefully we can get more people on. Maybe I'm going about this the wrong way. I think one of the things that I always try to achieve from these phone-ins is not division, but, just a diverse range of perspectives. And I think that maybe I'm going about this the wrong way. Maybe I should just, we should just go down the route of conversation with whatever it is. I think maybe trying to create a show based around always the opposite opinion maybe isn't, because even when I do that, obviously we get a lot of great calls of people that have. I just think I get very conscious sometimes about the idea of the channel becoming a bit of an echo chamber, and I don't want that to happen, because I think it's important. It helps me to appreciate different points of view. Hopefully it helps you hear different points of view. And, I think also what it does is it highlights some of the chaos and some of the unfortunate idiocy at times that we can see. I'm excited about this window. If we miss out on Raphinha, we miss out on Raphinha. He's a player that obviously could have added a lot of quality to the club, would have cost us quite a significant amount of money as well. My criticism will come at the start of the season if we've not signed the players that we need to. We know that we have 3 more positions, in my view, that we need to strengthen: wide forward, centre midfield, and a versatile defender. The versatile defender hopefully can be wrapped up with Lisandro Martinez. We've got a battle off interest from Manchester United for that. The central midfielder is going to be key. Will Arsenal reignite their interest in Yuri Tielemans? We'll have to wait and see. Sergej Milinkovic-Savic is obviously my number 1 pick, but it's probably not a realistic one. And then the wide forward role, we've got options: Pedro Gonçalves, Moussa Diaby, Serge Gnabry, I'm sorry, is not one of them. Cody Gakpo is, of course, another. Amin Guerri, of course, I've brought up at Nice as a potential other option as well. There are options out there. It's just about now whether Edu can get this done. And I'm excited. We've done something that Arsenal don't tend to do, which is do our business early. I'm looking forward to the Gabriel Jesus announcements later this week. You'll, of course, get updates on all of that and more. We do shows every single day, 8 a.m. UK time, bright and early, to get updated on all the latest Arsenal news. And then in the afternoons, like today, we do some other shows around different things and different talking topics. So make sure that you get involved if you're not already. Subscribe and like on the video too. I look forward to seeing you all bright and early tomorrow morning, of course, for the 8 a.m. show. And as always, up the Arsenal.